Right now, Father, I just thank you and give you praise for what you're doing through these children. We just thank you that where the spirit of unity is, you've commanded the blessing already. So we thank you that they're going to touch lives and that each and every one of them have something to say. Let it be powerful and impactful, that people's lives will continue to be changed and the rest of the youth will be empowered by the fire that they're going to light right now. And we just thank you for the consistency over the airwaves, that nothing will shut down and they will have a smooth communication. Amen.
Amen.
Mm. So, hello everybody. I'm DJ Wildstyle and I'm joined by other teen entertainers. Today we are going to talk about the current situation in the world and what we can do to create positive change. Welcome to part 2 of this discussion. If you haven't seen part 1, I encourage you to go check it out for more education, perspectives, and resources. We're here to share our perspectives as teens and talk about what we as young people can do to better our society. I will be prompting the discussion and talking to our panel. After that, we'll leave an open space for viewers to ask questions or comment. We have a few rules for this discussion so that everyone can focus on the person that is talking. We will be muting all other participants. Please type any questions you might have in the Q&A section, and after our opening statements and interviews, we will try to get to as many of them as possible. When I'm addressing your question to a participant, please make sure how you would like to be addressed, i.e. your name and your preferred pronouns. Lastly, we will not be using any questions with any racial slurs, hate speech, or curse words, so please keep it clean and respectful. These rules are posted in the chat box. In our current state of the world, what can we do to impact our society positively? We as young people and as human beings strive to create progress and justice for everyone. And that is what we will be discussing today. As teens, the world we are creating is the one we are going to live in for the rest of our lives. As a pioneer of fusion of rock and roll and Latin American jazz, Carlos Santana said, "There is no greater reward than working from your heart and making a difference in the world." Now I will be talking with the panelists and my friends about what's been going on in their minds and what gives them hope. First up, it is an honor to introduce our guest panelists. So first, Jordan Curette. Jordan is an actress, model, and singer. She has received 2 Young Entertainer Awards for her work on Disney Channel's Bizaardvark and her portrayal of young Felicia Rashad in A Tale of Two Sisters. You may have also seen her in the Oscar-nominated film Marriage Story on Disney Channel's Raven's Home as her recurring role Alexandra, and on CBS's hit show The Neighborhood. Jordan has a non-profit foundation called Jordan's Joy, which spreads hope and joy to underprivileged children. Jordan, we know you're all about spreading hope. Can you talk a little bit about what gives you hope in the current state of the world?
Yes, well, first off, let me just start by saying thank you, because I really appreciate to have this opportunity to be with all of these other amazing panelists and other young artists who are just in this world together. I personally know it can be very difficult for the younger audience members to understand everything that's going on in the world today. Racism is definitely a complex topic with lots of history behind it. Because of my work on various TV shows, I have learned from my fellow cast members and some topics on TV shows about racism and everything else, such as sexism, homophobia, all of that. I want to tell the audience members to really understand what exactly is going on in the world, and I want everybody to take away from after this conversation to learn how we can spread love and kind of make the world a better place, to be honest, because we really need that. What gives me hope is the fact that we're all talking about this. I truly believe that the majority of Americans, or just a majority of people in the world in general, are good people. Once people acknowledge that there's a problem in the world, we come together to to fix that problem. And I'm really happy that we're coming together here to fix everything else that's going on in the world. I'm looking forward to hearing what the other panelists have to say, and we all have a voice and we need to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to welcome Gabriel Silva. He is an actor, model, and podcaster from Houston, Texas, who has a passion for the arts, video games, and most of all, pepperoni pizza. Gabriel began acting and modeling classes at the Page Park Center for Acting and Modeling, and continues to mature in his skill and craft daily. Gabriel has a passion for the arts and trains in various disciplines across the wide spectrum. Aside from acting and modeling, Gabriel has started his own podcast, Just Talk with Gabe, which is available on a multitude of streaming platforms. Gabriel, can you tell us what gives you hope?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on today. And what gives me hope is, well, as a history nerd, I've looked into the past and seen people make the same mistakes over and over. So it is my hope that we can learn from these mistakes to create a better world, because the future is watching us.
Thank you. Now, our next entertainer I have the pleasure of speaking with is Chanel Chatham. Chanel Chatham is a 17-year-old actress, model, and dancer from Lower Manhattan, New York City. She's been involved with modeling, doing print work for ads, and walking several runways. Chanel has also been a part of numerous student, short, and indie films. She hopes to spread awareness on world issues and encourage others to take action. With this in mind, what gives you hope?
Well, what gives me hope is seeing everybody who wasn't aware of these issues before become aware of them now, and everybody just coming together, to protest and to take action. And on social media, they're all coming together in unity. And what that shows is that the more united we are, the more power to the people. And that gives me hope. Also, just like I heard on the New York Times, it says that people on Amazon, a lot of books based off of race are becoming sold out. And that just shows that there's a lot of people out there who want to just educate themselves on the topic. Also, just in general, hearing other people's success stories and all the things that they've been through and the obstacles that they've overcome, all of that just gives me hope and strength that I can also succeed and achieve my goals. And just in general, exercising, auditioning, and getting a call back and just booking a job, all of that just gives me hope.
I'm glad to hear it. Now I want to introduce Oscar Castan, otherwise known as Oscar the Game Boy. Oscar the Game Boy is an actor and influencer best known for his work on The Morning Show, ABC News Radio, KVV-BTV. He also is the host of a new IGTV show, Gen Z Buzz. Oscar enjoys being an influencer and creating positive content. Oscar, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Change. That's what gives me hope.
Thank you. Yes. And I'm excited we're all talking today. Hopefully we can start the conversation about that or continue a conversation we've already had. Now on to our reoccurring panelists, Theodore Barnes. Theodore is an actor whose career includes commercials, voiceovers, and film. He can be seen in episodes of the Nickelodeon shows Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn, Game Shakers, and Legendary Doodahs. He has also appeared as Ricky on the Amazon show Goliath, as well as young Terry on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. More recently, Theodore can be seen in the Netflix series Prince of Peoria and When They See Us and ABC's The Goldbergs. Now, Theodore, what gives you hope?
There's a lot of things that give me hope. I think I'll probably touch back on to what I said in the first one. I think it's pretty much tailored to each of us. My family is really what gives me strength and hope. And like people have said, that's what's going to keep you going to, want to drive each day to succeed your goals, to get up and say, okay, what am I going to accomplish today? No matter how big or small. And I think that goes with anything, not just with work, school, sports. It's a lot of things.
Thank you. Now, next up is Jose Carrera, aka Jack the Actor. Jack is an actor, director, and producer from Brooklyn, New York. During this quarantine, he is organizing creative projects and amazing events like this one tonight. Thank you so much for having all of us. I'm really excited. He just got nominated for 2 awards, one for the Young Entertainer Awards and the Young Artist Award, for his performances in the short film Homecoming and a project he directed and acted in, Away. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, what gives you hope?
I had mentioned this in the first discussion that we had, but what gives me hope is discussions like these, being able to come together and talk with people, and specifically teens, people our age, to come together and kind of like tackle this problem head on and be able to discuss it without arguing and having a peaceful conversation. So that's what gives me hope.
Thank you. Next up is Dylan Duff, an actor, writer, director, producer, and philanthropist. Dylan is also the founder and CEO of his own production company, Purple Monkeys Pictures Incorporated. He works in TV and film and won the Young Artist Award for Best Supporting Actor in a TV series for a show called Teens 101. Dylan, what gives you hope?
Thank you, first of all, for having me here. This is a great experience. I'm really happy to be back doing this again. What gives me hope, it's quite similar to what Jack said. What gives me hope is just seeing young people sort of speaking up and working together to create a better world for the future, because it will be our world in the future, and we're going to need to do everything we can to make it the best place we can make it to live. So that gives me hope that we're trying to do that.
Now, in our current situation, it's so inspiring to hear from all of you and what gives you hope. Next up is Paul Mikkel Williams. Paul Mikkel is an actor, performer, and philanthropist. He can be seen on Disney Channel as Ned on Sydney to the Max, and in movies such as The 1517 to Paris, about finding strength to be courageous in difficult situations. You can hear his voice on Spirit Riding Free and Dragon Rescue Riders. Paul Mikkel loves video games and Six Flags. And he is ready to pray with anyone who needs help and believes prayer can change anything and everything. So, Paul Mikkel, what gives you hope?
Yes, again, thank you for having me. Touching back from part 1 here, I'm going to stick with the fact of what gives me hope here is, like Dylan and Jack said, discussions like these, it gives me the strength and the hope to see that so many young people are coming out to do this. Even with the risk of everything that's going on, they're still pushing for the idea of dismantling racism. And I really think that that is a key thing that has to happen, and I love it.
Thank you. And now, Paul Mikkel, speaking a little bit more on that, on these communities that we have together, do you believe creating communities is important? And does grouping into communities separate people or bring them closer together? Is there any middle ground?
So starting off with that, I just want to say that the key word in community is unity. And in the Bible, it talks about how unity is a blessing. And I feel that creating and joining existing and active communities is an extremely important piece of the puzzle in dismantling racism. All communities are made to bring people together and provide support, education, and representation for the greater good of humanity. I'd say that grouping communities brings people together so they can find that common ground and find strength together, which brings me to this last thing. The most important community that we have at the moment is the human community. This is the common or middle ground that we were talking about. Talking and communicating in groups like this is a great step in the right direction. And the next step for some of the younger people that are out here could be joining an active community youth group so your voice can be heard and so you can help to make a change. Continue to brainstorm ideas so racism doesn't have to be a discussion. Any bottled up anger that you have, put it into the hard work that you want to do to stop this injustice. Because I know that if you put your mind to it, the change that you make for this nation will be unstoppable.
And now, on the topic of communities, Theodore, do you think it is important for communities to come together at this time, such as different ethnic, cultural, and other marginalized communities? If you've experienced this personally, why is it important for all communities to come together to fight injustice?
Yeah, I do think that it's important for us to come together, mainly because I think we all experience racism, or getting treated differently, however you want to say it. We all have a different experience in that, and I do think that it's great that we, even this is, we're coming together. I'm pretty sure everyone here is of a different race or ethnic group. And I think that it is important to share, and even just, being there, even little things and saying, how's your day? People might just want to pour their heart out to you just from, getting that open dialogue. Yes, thank you. To just, ask them how their day was. So I do think it's very important that we come together as one. We should all be family, to be honest.
Thank you. Now, Jack, some people feel uncomfortable when talking about privilege or minority groups. What do you think about this discomfort? How can people use their privilege to help others or be aware of their privilege when supporting marginalized groups?
I believe that discomfort kind of comes from how the person was raised. Like, they fear that they don't know the situation, so they don't know how to express themselves because they weren't given the opportunity to grow up being open with it, with their views, and see things that occur in the world. I think once they encounter the reality of things, they face the fact that they have been living in the privilege bubble and that all their beliefs come from their surroundings and what they were exposed to. I would call it some pretty loud thunder. I would call it living in denial, and not having the knowledge to understand the difference. Like, how do I say it? If you were like a privileged person, you should start an uncomfortable conversation so that way you can be able to empathize and understand and listen to what the other person has to say. We all have a voice, and it is our responsibility to use it. Correct racism if you witness it. Show that you are an ally and you're not going to accept discrimination or hateful actions, because being silent just means one thing, is that you still need to learn who you are and where you stand regarding the matter. But bringing up the learning and the listening, DJ, what do you think is the importance of listening? Why is it important to hear other sides and opinions on your views and ideologies? What is the importance of seeing every perspective, even the ones you don't agree with?
So, going off what you were saying too, is the discomfort you feel when talking about marginalized groups and sort of prejudice that you don't deal with is a privilege, because that means that you've never experienced it, so you've never experienced that hurt. And I think the importance of listening to others and about their perspectives is we only see the world through our eyes. And this limits our ability to gain full knowledge and understanding of the world around us. And if we listen, and when we listen, especially to members of oppressed groups, it helps everyone proceed in fighting for justice, doing the right thing, and being educated. Similarly, it's important to listen to people whose opinions and beliefs you don't agree with. There's an exercise I encourage everyone to do that I learned from listening to a talk given by the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation in Omaha, Nebraska. They invited people to listen to other opinions ranging from favorite ice cream flavors to systemic racism. Ask them what their opinion is and what personal experiences and information led other people to believe it. After they're done speaking, add on with personal ideologies and experiences. When we're able to listen and talk with each other, we can agree on positive changes and make common grounds. Also, listening to anybody's personal experiences humanizes them and takes them out of mob mentalities or thoughts that one group of people or people that don't agree with you all think the same thing. Now, talking about mob mentalities and making sure not to group people into places based off of what you think. Oscar, how can we get rid of embedded systemic prejudice and injustice while understanding not individual and the system is corrupt? How can we respect good people while fighting against a greater evil? And do we owe this respect?
Well, it's a constant practice. We have injustice for about 400 years that we have to undo. You're probably asking that right now, like, what can I do? Well, I feel like as a teenager that I should be a role model for other kids. Look into, the history of racism from online resources. And the most powerful thing we can do right now is to not remain silent, get our voice out there. When you see someone doing something racist, you can't just sit there and do nothing. You got to go ahead and do something, but also be aware of your actions. We should celebrate our differences, and we should encourage curiosity, but also by still acknowledging that race and racism is still a thing. And also, there's some kids out here right now, like during these times, who haven't had a conversation like this, and so they look up to us, teenagers, for advice, like us and our influence. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I have to say for now.
So going off what you said, I know there is a part where you were missing, but we had actually talked a little bit before about this before everyone came in. So I wanted to reiterate what you said and take some personal experience into it too. Being in the music industry personally, your uniqueness and what makes you different, whether it is your culture, your orientation, your gender, your socioeconomic level, that is what makes you the most powerful, because that's what makes you you. Those experiences that you've gotten because of your identities make up you as a person and make up your past and influence your decisions. So when Oscar was talking about colorblindness and not seeing those identities, it's almost like not seeing a part of that person. And so in order to be able to see all of us as human beings and see all of us as equals, we have to see people and we have to celebrate people. So I think we were talking about that, and I wanted to make sure. So thank you. Now we have seen and not seen injustice be swept under rugs and brushed aside or ignored. Why is this harmful? What can we do to make sure everyone's truths and experiences are heard? And I think I want to ask this to Gabriel.
Well, we have seen the results of why sweeping injustices under the rug is harmful. In order to truly have a United States of America and the world, we need to put justice for all at the forefront and not just recite it. And as for the second part of that question, it's actually a lot easier than we all think. In order to hear everyone's truths and experiences, we need to listen to actually understand instead of listening to reply.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I hope that everybody that's listening at home right now is practicing exactly what Gabriel just said. Gotta listen and take it in. Thank you guys again, everybody that's already answered, for your experiences. Now, Jordan, kind of going off of making sure everyone is heard, as a person with a platform who's in the entertainment and the arts, why is it important to speak out and stand up for social, civil, and human rights?
Yes, well, as a person in the public eye, I always try to use my platform for good. Speaking of, bringing it to people's attention that racism, sexism, homophobia is real. All of that is real, and I always try to spread attention to tell everyone that even the little things like commenting on like how somebody looks or what a skin tone is, or like how you're too pale or you're too dark, or like all of that, or like you're pretty good for a girl, like all of that, that's what I try to bring to people's attention, because that's what we're trying to stop, because it's not right. And I hope that my words and actions will always inspire others to do the same thing, such as doing the little things like doing donations, all of that, or just picking up trash and complimenting someone, or just being nice and spreading equality to everybody. That's what I always try to tell everybody in the world right now. But I really think that nobody's ever too young to make a difference. Some people may think that, oh, well, like, this is just going to be a youth discussion where they're going to just sum it down for the little ones. We are summing it down, but we are also taking this very seriously, like one by one. Like, we're giving in every detail they need to know, because I really need to hear this, because I'm only 11 and I still need to learn more about what's going on in the world, and this really educated me myself, and I really hope that everybody who is watching this right now got educated a lot from some of these answers right now. But I think it's so important to talk about this, especially since this year, the time right now is just, it's really needed.
Thank you. And now we're talking about as youth too, as teens, like, so this is for Dylan. As youth and teens, we live in a world that will be ours sooner than we know it. What do you hope to see in the future? What does justice look like?
Thank you. That's a great question. It is our future. We are the people, that will be responsible for this world and where we live. And I think that my hope for the future is equality and living in a world where people can just be who they are and respect everyone for who they are, where everyone will be treated as human beings, and we won't be discriminating against people for anything like race, gender, sexuality, all those things. I hope that in the future we can live in a society where everyone will respect everyone and respect everyone else's cultures and beliefs, and try to get along as a global community. That would be a really nice future to have.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And now my question is for Chanel. Chanel, a lot of people contribute to oppression despite their intentions, even unknowingly. What are some examples of this, and how can we combat this and make sure we contribute to positivity, equality, and justice?
Well, some people contribute to racism unknowingly, most of the time in the form of microaggressions. And microaggressions are statements made, actions taken, and questions asked that are offensive to a person's identity, whether it's their race, gender, or their sexuality. Some examples of this are, oh, you're pretty for a Black girl, or can I touch your hair, or you look like an Oreo. Like, those things, even performatively staging Black students or other people of color at predominantly white private schools, and just using them for marketing and just like putting them in their ads when really there isn't a lot of those type of students at the school. Those things all have their own way of dehumanizing and just continuing the stereotypes of that person's race. So I think if you experience or see or hear of a microaggression and you have the power to speak up about it, then you should just speak up and just tell that person or bring it to the attention of the people who are enforcing those microaggressions, why that's wrong, and just explain to them what microaggressions are in general. Also, staying silent on Black issues when you indulge in Black culture on a daily. That is just another way of continuing to just politicize the Black Lives Matter movement, because if a lot of the reasons why people stay silent is because, oh, they don't want to get too political. Well, first of all, it's just people fighting for equality and just for basic human rights. I don't think that should be politicized. I think that should just be like normalized. So just know that if you're staying silent, then you're just continuing to politicize the Black Lives Matter movement. And not just only for Black Lives Matter, but for other movements, for like other races as well. So just don't stay silent, you know, speak up and take action.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Now I'm going to take a second for everybody to really hear what everybody said, but also I want to turn some time to the participants at home for any questions or comments. There is a Q&A space, so if you have any questions, please leave them there. And if any of the panelists want to build on what any other panelists said or any answers they thought were intriguing or what they said previously, please feel free to do so.
I would also like to add on that it's important to educate yourself. So if you're too scared of speaking out because you don't know that much about the issue, educate yourself. Watch movies and shows and read books and just go online, you know, just Google. Take advantage of the internet.
Thank you. Thank you. Stressing the importance of education. So if anybody has any questions, please put them in. We got a Q&A saying, this is not a question. I just wanted to say I'm proud of all of you. Thank you. Okay, we just got a question. What policy proposals would you propose for government to adopt? Yes.
Well, I don't know if this is like a policy proposal, but I think we should like defund the police because, you know, the police and especially like the NYPD, there's like billions of dollars of money just goes to them and like their budget. And there's like a lot of other like community things like healthcare, education, and like homelessness, and like even like college tuitions that need that money. And if you're just like I just don't think like putting billions of dollars into policing and like criminal justice, I think that's just going to continue to criminalize people, especially people of color and Black people even more. I think our focus should also be on like rehabilitation and on like mental health and like getting people the help they need and the resources they need to do better and, you know, become better. And defunding the police, it's basically just what it says, like just bringing down the number of their budget, like just cutting their budget down to like an acceptable amount and placing those the money that's been cut into all the other things that I've talked about, like mental health, you know, healthcare, housing, and education.
Thank you. And definitely agree. And adding on to that, I believe that also we need more education on marginalized groups in public and private schools and in general school curriculums. Because something we see a lot of is the winner of history is the one writing it. And it erases a lot of experiences and really powerful and influential people in history that were of marginalized groups, as well as I think I think the number is around one riot suit for police is about 55 frontline medical workers suits. That's the exact same cost. Putting that money into education, into healthcare, into college tuition is really important. Another thing I want to see is people being treated like human beings, and I don't know exactly what that's going to take, but people are being seen as expendable, whether that is someone who is unarmed, like we've been seeing, especially Black people statistically, like they're unarmed, they're not doing anything wrong, their life is not peoples to be chosen whether or not they get to live. People in detention centers who are being forced to sleep in cages and sexual harassment levels are very high. Those people need justice too. And the children. Also, other people that are just getting, like trans people of color who are getting killed right now just for being who they are, is important that we do something about that. We just got more questions. Yeah, we just got more questions. So I will go to the next questions. It says, you guys are inspiring. Do you think changes we are seeing in the world will be permanent, or is it just a hot topic trend? I'm nervous it's going to fade away.
Well, all I know is that I'm sure a lot of the people who are on this call, and definitely all the panelists, are not going to let this fade away, because it is still happening, and we're still going to try to stop racism in all colors. But I do feel like some people are just using it for more views, or viewing it as an aesthetic, which I really think is not appropriate, because it's actually happening and it's not a trend. But some people are definitely taking it that way. And I do feel like a lot of people are using their voices on social media to spread stuff about Black Lives Matter, all of that, and pride, all of those amazing things. But some people are just spreading it and then are like, okay, back to doing whatever, and that's really not exactly what we want. But all I know is that there's still a lot of good people who are going to keep spreading the message.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, this next question goes into that, unless, does anyone else have anything they want to say about this?
Yeah, I do. I hope it doesn't fade away, but so we need to be the ones to make sure it doesn't.
Thank you. Now, this next question is, when we make signs and post on social media platforms, what should we say?
I'll take this one into consideration. That is a great question. There isn't any right or wrong answer to this. Say what you think is on your mind. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a post. You can just talk with friends. What one of my friends did was they did a live interview with one of their friends, just talking about all this stuff. And it's not really to make a post about it. It's just to simply have a conversation and spread the word of what's going on. Because if you don't spread the word, that is how, like the last question, that is how it's going to be a hot topic trend. You have to keep the momentum going on this subject so it doesn't fade away.
Thank you. Yeah. And encouraging, I know a lot of the people that are reoccurring now. Also, I just remembered as Pomaka was talking, thank you, we're talking about reaching out to people in power, because people necessarily aren't going to see what you post on your personal social media account. And I know a few of you guys were talking about writing to politicians, calling people in power. I know that Paul McKell made a point about talking to people that you support what they're believing in, and how that is just as powerful as something someone else could do. So thank you. Now, we just got something from Tessa, which is, this is not a question, but I wanted to thank you all for having this conversation and sharing your knowledge. I'm learning so much. And I think all of us are really glad that we're able to hear that. Okay, Oscar Castan Jr. As youth influencers, how does your platform or actions play a role to defeat prejudice and racism? How can you help with these injustices?
What I would say is mostly just to be positive and like to help educate people by still being positive, even like during these times. Just be very positive.
Thank you.
I also think that because we have platforms with, most of us have like a decent amount of followers, we could take actions ourselves and then just tell our followers to also take those same actions and just educate them on why it's important and why we should, so that like the more actions that are taken, the most likely that change is going to come and the more change we'll get. Like even signing petitions, like that works as well. We've seen cases like in the past that have just been dismissed by the racist system that's currently in place in America, and stuff that like their cases have been closed when really like there's still a loophole, and it shouldn't have been closed. And like things from years ago are now coming back because of all this awareness and because of all the people that are suddenly becoming aware of this. They're coming back now, and a lot of people are now fighting for justice and speaking out about their problems. Like now is the time, because so many things have happened in the past, and so many people have just, especially people in power, have just dismissed what's going on and have ignored the problem. But now I feel like change is gonna come because of all of that.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they would like to say?
Yeah, I was thinking, just to add on to that, that was all great. I totally agree with everything that you said. So yeah, I'm just thinking like one of the things that we can do as influencers and people with this platform, as you said, we need to just continue to share resources and share stories and inform people about what's happening so that it doesn't fade away, as we talked about earlier. We need to keep at it and keep posting things and telling people what they can do to help, so that we can work together to fix the issue and not let it become a trend or fade away.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Also, I think reaching out to the people in your circle, your parents, your grandparents, asking them how it was and how they dealt with injustice in their time, because even though it's the same thing going on, it totally different. Totally different era, and I would be willing to bet things were way worse, then than they are now. So yeah, I definitely think piggybacking on how to keep it alive and keeping it fresh.
Thank you. Now, this next question also blends with this question and what I'm thinking of sharing. So this next question is, as actors, what can we do in the workplace to help with these issues? Something I was going to say, which is also about my platform, is something I strive to do is do stuff like this because we are, as teens, as entertainers, the people that I rarely had on TV. I never saw someone like me on TV. I never saw an actress that I was like, that's me. I can see myself in that person, my identities. So I try to be the half Chicana, half Jewish DJ that wears whatever she wants, and for every little kid who doesn't see that everywhere. Because seeing representation is so powerful, and it's hard to look around when you're a kid and not see anybody like you, and then go to school and have people say, well, no one on TV looks like you, so you must be different. So you must be ugly, or you must be weird because you're not what we see every day. You're not normal. So being the representation for the next generation, because we're just doing what we're doing and being our truthful selves, is really important. And I want to thank everybody for coming on here and doing that for other little kids.
I just wanted to say I totally agree with you. And even in the form of, little things like Barbie dolls and the toys that you see around, most of the dolls, like, they didn't have like hair like me. So, at the local dance studio that I was a part of, this girl, she would say, well, your hair is like not real. Like it's not real. And I was like, I mean, just because it's not the same as yours and it doesn't look like yours, it doesn't mean it's not real. But anyways, I think, since my main form of art in the entertainment industry right now is acting. I want to get into producing, and I want to get into maybe screenwriting, into other fields of the industry. So when I'm an adult and when I'm doing those things, I can myself include more people, do just that, be more inclusive. So I'll bring other people, of different ethnicities and different races into, the industry and into my work, and give more opportunities for all types of people with different types of identities. So it starts with you or with us.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Dylan?
Sorry, if I could just add on to that, that's great what you're saying too. And I just wanted to add on that, also outside of acting, as a screenwriter and a director and producer myself, all of my projects, I include people of all different walks of life and all different types of people, because I think it's really important that we can show these stories that aren't told as often. And I think we need to really tell all of these different stories and tell as many as we can to get people to see that as normal, as you said, although what is normal really? But we want to really bring the idea that everyone and every type of person can be normal, because we're all human and we should all just accept and respect everyone.
Thank you. And I see Paul McHale, you're unmuted. Do you have something else to add?
As somewhat of a contribution to this question, I was saying that sometimes you don't have to take the stereotypical roles, such as a poor Black person or a person that speaks broken English, or a drug dealer. Sometimes you just have to say no, because you want to represent your race in a good way, and you want that to reflect, so people can understand that in the terms of African American people, that you are not a threat, and that you can be someone that is not from a stereotypical neighborhood selling drugs or trafficking or whatever people think. You can be that successful accountant, or you can be that millionaire that just happens to be from a broken home.
So I'm getting a lot of questions about schools. So not only like people from predominantly white schools, what experiences with that? What do you think about educational opportunities and programs, and about, different identities? We're getting questions about what do you, as a teacher, what do you want to see being taught about? Some say Black Lives Matter, some say history of people of color, some say history of different identities. So just on education, does anyone have anything they want to speak on?
Well, some ways, like when it comes to education, like for little younger children, you can buy books or include more picture books that includes different types of identity and races, and touches more about those topics, because picture books and storytelling is a way, I feel, for little children to understand more than just like talking like statistics and stuff, because I feel like from the age of 3, that's when children start to like identify and act more towards people based off of their race, if they're not like educated about that, or if their parents never talked to them about that.
I want to thank you guys for sharing your experiences. Something I see, so I go to a private school that is predominantly white, and there are students of color, students of different identities there, but something you see a lot, even in schools that represent not going by textbooks, is that people are always left out, or parts of the story are always left out. And even I might not understand the weight of that fully, because there's so many things, like when we're little, we are taught one version of slavery, one version of the first Thanksgiving, and then we have to be retaught and retaught, and we never really get the full experiences. Or people that are left out of history, like people that have caused mass genocides, or terrible people that we just never learn about, or even powerful, amazing people like especially of intersecting identities that we have never learned about, such as just names we've never heard from history that need to be shared. And the more we learn about that, the more human, the more real other identities' experiences become. Because everything, your mind starts shaping from a young age. If we don't learn about, I'm blanking on her last name, but like Marsha P., I'm blanking on her last name, but she was a Black trans woman that not only basically created Stonewall, but also fought in the civil rights movement. We don't hear names like that. We barely hear, even in classrooms, names of revolutionaries from the past. And I think that that's super important, is just our histories, other people's histories, history of culture. We're all human, no matter what identities we are, and our history is important.
I also just wanted to say that also, like, I agree with what you said, and it comes in the part of like whitewashing history. Like now there's talk of like people saying like, oh yeah, like Jesus wasn't actually like a white man. Like the Pilgrims just wanted to like portray him as that because like, you know, what they did to the Native Americans, oh, their skin was darker, their language was foreign, and like their own spiritual beliefs were like incomprehensible to what like the white and like Christian people thought of like that time. So they decided to like, you know, paint this image of like, you know, Jesus as like blue eyes, like wavy brown hair, and like, you know, white skin, when really like the place where he comes from, most people there are like dark skin, maybe curly hair, and like, you know, he was like a dark skinned Middle Eastern Jewish man, not like a white, you know, European like image. But at the same time, like no one knows his true like image, like what he actually looks like. But yeah, there are like a lot of talks of just like whitewashing history, like even in the past, like we never, like, yeah, I learned about in school that Christopher Columbus discovered America when really like he didn't really discover America. There were like already people living there. And stuff like, you know, Gandhi, who was actually like a racist, you know, towards like Black people. I never learned that either. So yeah, like I think whitewashing history is also like a part of that.
Okay. I just definitely agree with what you say, and I just want to take some time, like, for real. It's all history is important, and I want to thank you for highlighting that, because people are given months and times of the year, and it's like, this is the designated time to learn about this type of history. No, we are history, like, no matter who you are. Also, we got some questions based off of some of Chanel's answers, so props to you for giving such profound answers, for real. Thank you, and sharing your experiences. So this is about something you said earlier. We're talking about microaggressions in general. We were talking about microaggressions. Does anyone in this panel have any experiences they want to share? I think, or anything that they've seen and they're just like, and what they wish could have happened, or what someone else can do to next time be more positive or more or less prejudice, you know, what was wrong with it and why it's not okay to say something like that.
Well, I think I did talk about it like earlier. An experience that I had was like, you know, the girl in the dance studio just like talking about like my hair, you know, and like my hair is like a big part of like my African culture, even though like, yeah, I'm African American, and I don't really like know about my real roots in like the continent of Africa, because, you know, like slaves. But like, yeah, that was a form of microaggressions, because that's just like a way of like dehumanizing someone based off of like who they are. So like I've also had people like, you know, touch my hair and like say like, oh my god, your hair is like so fluffy, can I like touch it? And it's just like, like touch it and stuff like that, and like put it in like different styles, and I'm like, can you not? So yeah, like stuff like that. And also like I've even heard the term like, oh, but you're not like those kinds of people, like you're decent, like the way that you act. And I'm like, I don't really know what that means, because like you can't really like act a certain race, or like you can't act like a certain like person, like whoever that person is, like anybody can be like anyone can act a certain way no matter who they are. And if you're just gonna like point out that like certain person like acts this way, and like, oh, so you don't really belong to like that race because you don't act like that, like that's just stereotyping. Like for example, somebody like calling someone, like saying to another Black person, oh, but you don't act ghetto, so you're not really Black. Like that's a microaggression, because you're saying that all Black people are ghetto, and that's also racist, because ghetto doesn't equal Black. It's like a different thing. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story and your personal experiences. Does anyone else have anything they want to share about that, or even that they've seen? Jack? And then Oscar.
From experience, I guess, cause like, I don't know, but like sometimes people would be like, oh, are you Mexican, or oh, are you Indian because of my skin color? I don't know. But I feel like it's weird because like no one truly knows you. Like no one knows you like in that personal sense. So for you to just come up to someone and be like, hey, are you this type of person? It's kind of weird, because it's like, hi? Like not even a hi first. It's just more of a, hey, are you Mexican? Like, so I feel like, I think you guys know what I'm trying to say, but it's kind of like a microaggression, because it's kind of putting someone in a certain group, but you don't know them. So how would you know where they belong, or how do they act, or how do they do this and that? So you can't really do anything like that because you don't know them. So.
Thank you. It's like, we are our identities, but we are humans before all of that. Like, we would like a hello. We would like a, what's your name, you know? It's not just, oh, you're this? Cool. That says everything about you based off of the stereotype I have in my head about what that is, from a perspective not being in that community. So thank you. Now, Oscar, you had something you wanted to say?
So I like to add on this story I had from like, I think 4th from 5th grade. I was on a field trip, right? And I was with my friends, and at the end of the field trip, like one of the kids, like he was just putting his hand in the water, and the teacher was just yelled at him, like, quit acting ghetto. And he was Black. And I, now realizing that, I'm like, why would she say that? That's messed up. And it was private school. It was like a Christian private school. I don't know why she said that, now thinking about it.
Thank you. Something that I've experienced, I've been in private school all my life, and most of them are predominantly white. So the inconvenience about that is not only in the first school with their lack of talk about people of color, there's barely any around. So throughout my schooling years, it's always been microaggressions, but at the same time, people thinking that they are above racism. So whenever you try to be like, that's not okay, they're like, you can't take a joke. Like, saying that I can't speak English, or that I'm illegal, or when are you going to go back to Mexico, or stuff like that. I even had a girl at I mean, the list could go on, but we don't have all that time. I even had a girl that was like, at first I didn't like you because you were Mexican, but now I like you because you're nice. Like, I thought all Mexican people were like ghetto. Like, I knew you're from like East LA. I just thought that all Black Mexican people were like dirty and that they didn't speak English. But like, now I like you because you're nice. And I brought it to the school, and they were like, okay, now you need to apologize. And I was like, really? That's it? That's all you're gonna do? But it's just
Exactly. It's like a lot of people think that like you can just say something offensive, but at the same time it's a joke. Like, I'm sure we all can take a joke, but like, we don't take anything disguised as a joke that's really an insult. So that's what I just think is the most offensive for definitely everybody here, because more people may laugh thinking it's funny, but really, like, it can actually hurt someone on the inside, and it's not funny.
Thank you. And is there anything people have spoke, people that haven't spoke, that you would like to see? You would like to see just as a positivity stance, or as a, just in general, what should have been done, what can be done, what's something you want to say that's like positive, that is like, this is me. I'm a human being. I deserve rights. I deserve to be treated equally. And this is what I'd like to see.
I just want to add something.
Yes.
Well, as a biracial person, I think it's important to educate everyone and let them know that, we're comfortable representing both halves of who they are, and they don't have to choose between one or the other.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also just wanted to add on that there's also like along with colorism and like the Hispanic community and like the Black community and in the Asian community as well. As someone who's half Asian, half Black, I have experienced anti-Blackness in the Asian community, and we also, like, it starts with your family, and like it has to start in your heart, and then you have to speak out about it to your family members and call out colorism towards your family members so that, it could change when they go out into the world. Just like speak out about it when you're experiencing colorism, or like if someone is being targeted more based off the color of their skin, or if somebody lighter is being treated more like on a higher standard, speak out about it because it's there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And as someone who, because I am biracial as well, as someone who benefits from colorism because I am lighter, because I'm half Jewish, I think it's important for everybody that's listening that's like that. A lot of communities will try to say, well, you don't belong here because you're half of that, or you're too much of this, you're too much of that to be here. Like, you're too Jewish, you're too white to be Mexican, but you're too Mexican to be Jewish. As a person who benefits from colorism, I like use your privilege to bridge them together, because you are equal to everybody, and since you are put in a place where you're able to talk because you're in this place of privilege, use the upper hand you've been given to bring everybody up, because everybody are equal. Everybody belongs in every single space, and everybody should feel comfortable in every space and be able to claim their culture. And thank you. And I hope we also have more education in our communities about colorism, because it is something that is usually swept under the rug. How do you talk to friends that don't understand what's happening right now without conflict? Jack.
Okay. I think like listening, making sure like they understand. My teacher told me one time, he says, if you talk to someone and you guys have two different opinions, you don't have to agree with the person. You just have to understand them. You have to understand where they come from, what they're talking about. So to talk to a friend, you just got to make sure that when they're listening, they're actually listening. They don't have to agree with it, but just make sure they understand that. Like, let's say, like Jordan said, like if you make a joke, if your friend makes a joke about you, but it's really an insult, be like, hey guy, I didn't really like that joke because it kind of offended me in a way. You can just make sure that they understand that. Be like, okay, I don't think that you can make that joke again because it made me feel some sort of way. So I think that's something that we should take into account when it comes to friendships and talking about this kind of stuff.
I know what I was talking about before was listening. Was listening to other people, because something I've learned while trying to educate other people, or trying to be like, this is my experience, is they're not gonna listen. Even, I don't think it's our burden to carry, but they won't listen if we are like, you did this, you did that. Even though it's not fair that we're like, have to hold back, it is something that, in order to honor both opinions that are being shared, in order to honor both friends, you have to be like hearing them, hearing what they say. You have to be like, what is their personal experience that made them think this? Try to see what they're talking about, and then add on with your own personal experience. Be like, this is my story. This is why I think this. And maybe consider my side, and I'll definitely consider yours. And we don't have to agree, but we can agree to not agree and continue to be friends and respect each other's opinions. Okay, now on to our last question, which is the one I accidentally almost did, which is, for the actors in the group, are you guys able to say no to a role that portrays people in your general ethnic group and invokes some sort of change to the character? Jack.
Like Paul McKell said earlier, because he had said this earlier about how you can say no. There's a very high risk you probably won't have the role because they'll be like, we're gonna probably look for someone else then if you can't agree to that term. But I feel like if you feel strongly about it and you bring it to their attention that this is something that you really feel strong about, there could be a possibility that they'll be like, okay, hey, we'll change this up so that way you don't feel this certain way because we really want you for the role. But then again, there's a high possibility that they'll be like, we're just gonna look for someone else to do the role. So.
It's also talking about, I'm gonna talk a little bit and then, sorry. Basically, I'm not really actor. I've done about one project, but something that I've noticed even in just doing skits for school, like people are like, oh, we'll have you throw chanclas, or oh, you'll be the Hispanic one, and I'm like, I would prefer not, like, just trying to be, I tried to be polite back then, and I was just like, actually, I would prefer if we could just take this role a different way, or I had some ideas, or maybe we could come up with a few other ideas. Also, with that, what Dylan said about making sure everybody is represented correctly in good light and making sure you have variety. So I think it is important that we have characters that are different, but make sure that those characters are seen as human beings and not as a walking stereotype. I think that's important. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add on or share or something like Gabriel?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, well, yeah, Jack is right. As an actor, you can, it's a risk, but you can decline any role for any reason. But I know my agents and coach helped me choose the right role that isn't a stereotypical one. And I thank them for that. But that needs to be something that has to change.
Thank you. And another thing I want to add on to that is, it's people's stereotype to reclaim. So if you're writing a show and there's a stereotype about something you claim to, or a stereotype you've been with, and you want to put it in for comedic relief or just a little bit, I think that that's fine. But if someone that has never experienced any sort of discrimination for that stereotype just puts it in as like, huh, that'll be funny, it's like, what? So I think that also reclaiming, which is a thing that a lot of people talk about, is important, which is like, if you put in a stereotypical role for comedic relief and you are a person that has been hurt with that stereotype, and you're like, no, I'm gonna make this positive, this is gonna be funny, I'm gonna do something to make people laugh with something that has hurt me, then I honestly, I applaud those people that do that. Like like comedians, just comedians in general, they always poke fun at stereotypes of their cultures. So I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to our discussion. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share depending on what platform you're viewing on. Our hope is when this discussion came to a close, you would leave with a new or greater desire to make the world a better place, because we all can. The future we dream about can be a reality. As teens, the world we are fighting for and trying to better is the world we will inherit. Any action, no matter the size, can make a difference. You can talk or write to people in power and have valuable discussions with people around you. You can educate yourself and better your understanding of the current state of the world. I personally spend my days, even days I feel tired, talking with people, listening to their unique experiences, talking with people I don't agree with, and signing petitions on change.org. You can take what you're passionate about and use it for the spreading of positivity and justice. We can make a change as long as we make an effort. Sí se puede. Yes, we can. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
So much
Appreciate it.
awesome to have you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.